Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Malagor the Dark Omen. So Malagor's start position is near the sunken Kurnach, which is roughly the same position he's always had in Total War Warhammer 1 and 2. He's always started in this sort of general area here, but this area has gone under a lot of geographical changes, and so slight adjustments to his start position have happened over time. Now, your starting enemy are the Sires of Morcaine. Now, as far as starting enemies are concerned, this is one of the worst enemies for Malagor to have in the early stages of his campaign. Not because they're a difficult enemy, but because they're an elusive bitch-ass enemy. So these guys here, after fighting the first battle and setting up a herdstone here, these armies are not interested in engaging you in combat. And also, it takes a long time to get from Sunken Kurnach over to here, because you can't just jump straight over here. It's not 2 turns, it's more like 3 or 4 turns to get to Morgheim. So this is a really bad starting enemy because Beastmen really benefit from early game carnage, and going 4 or 5 turns before you've even faced your first army is bullcrap for any Beastman Lord. It's just not enjoyable. You want to be fighting as many armies as possible. All the other Beastman Lords that all have good fights in the early stage of the campaign, good successive fights, which allows them to get a good amount of dread going, which you need for your campaign mechanics, and a good amount of Marks of Ruination so that you can unlock new armies and Herdstone Shards and various other rewards. You need to get this stuff going as quickly as possible, and these guys here, due to being bitches, just sort of don't let you get that. So my advice in regard to dealing with that is just to forget about these guys as an enemy. They're not worth your time because they're bitches. Instead, go north and go fight someone who's not a bitch. Go fight Wurzag. Right from turn 1, Wurzag is still fairly easy to deal with, especially if you manage to ambush him. And his defeat rate is really good. There's lots of concentration of enemies in here. Whereas this area here, the population, like the number of settlements, it's just sparsely populated, and you want to be destroying as many settlements as possible. It's just a crappy start position. I'd even go so far as to say that Malagor has the worst start position out of any of the Beastman Lords, because all the other guys have nice, concentrated, soft enemies that you're ready to pound right on turn 1, and these guys here are just bitches, so just avoid them. Go north. You can go to Ekrend, or you can go to Akendorf here, good defeat traits, lots of concentration of enemies, or even go so far as to go into the Southern Empire over here. Loads of enemies. They don't have any chance to escape you because they're settled. It's very easy to get from one settlement to another. You want to be fighting a battle every single turn. If you're in a location where you can do that, then you're in a good place for the Beastmen because they value carnage. That's how you get your campaign mechanics. Even if you're losing the odd battle here and there, you've just got to be constantly fighting battles. Now, talking about Malagor himself, he is an extremely powerful legendary lord. He got a little bit of a nerf since Total War Warhammer 2, but he's still very powerful. So he has the trait Crowfather, which increases his movement range when using the Beast Path by 50%, enemy casualty replenishment rate 100% for enemy armies in local province. That means the same province that you're in, they cannot replenish any of their casualties. Enemy leadership -8 for enemy armies in the local province, not just the local region. So that's pretty much unique to Malagor. I think he might be the only character that does that for the local province. And attribute causes fear for Harpy units, which is not really that big of a deal. Harpies suck. Then over here, he's got loads of unique skills. So he's got his generic blue line and red line, but he's got essentially 3 sort of unique lines. Well, this one here is unique, but this is like a very concentrated sort of magic line here. So he has laws. He's got spells from 4 different laws of magic. He's got Flock of Doom from the Law of Beast, which is kind of like his bread and butter spell. That's his best one, really. Enfeebling Foe from the Law of Shadows. Penumbral Pendulum there from the Law of Shadows. Doom and Darkness from the Law of Death. Mantle of Gorok from the Law of Wilds. Savage Dominion from the Law of Wilds. And then he's got Greater Arcane Conduit here, which is good for generating more winds of magic and some spell mastery. They're making all of your spells a little bit more powerful. Then you've got all of the passives from each of those laws of magic. You've got magical reserves there. Extra 5 winds of magic power reserve capacity. Bestial Surge, Wild Heart, Life Leeching, Smoke and Mirrors. The main one that you really want to go for is Life Leeching, because combining Life Leeching with Flock of Doom, it's possible to get Flock of Doom down to about 3 or 4 winds of magic. It's a little bit weird because, at least last time I played it, what it does is it says it costs 3 winds of magic to cast, but it actually ends up casting 4 because the actual winds of magic cost is like 3.5. At least that was the last time I checked, because there's various different ways you can reduce the cost on it. Obviously, putting 2 points into it. You got Doom of Mankind over here. Winds of magic cost -10% for all spells. He no longer reduces the winds of magic cost for all spellcasters faction-wide, but you still get that technology over here. Where is it? Winds of Magic cost minus 10% for Lore of Beasts, Wild, Shadow. So you can overall reduce that Winds of Magic cost by 20%. So using those two combinations, you can essentially cast Flock of Doom for like 1 or 2 Winds of Magic, making, 100 or 110 Winds of Magic really stretch out for a hell of a lot of kills, especially with extra damage output as well. Now, in Total War Warhammer 2, it was possible for Malagor to essentially have an unlimited pool of Winds of Magic. So the maximum potential of Malagor in Total War Warhammer 3 is lower than the maximum potential of Malagor in Total War Warhammer 2, so he's a little bit weaker. So yeah, we covered that Doom of Mankind over here, Winds of Magic cost for all spells. Overall, his spell line is really good. He's got very useful spells for him from all the laws of magic that he draws from. Because Doom and Darkness normally is like a kind of mess spell, especially on very high battle difficulty. But because Malagor is already reducing so much leadership, you can sometimes just walk into a battle and cast this on undamaged units and just rout them straight away. So it can be very helpful. Then over here he's got his like proper unique line. You've got Something Wicked, This Way It Comes. Now he's already got a unupgraded version of it to begin with, which causes a leadership -4 aura in an effect range of 35 meters. So the first point into this just gives enemy leadership -9 in the local regions. That's just a passive debuff for them. And then over here in upgraded version, it upgrades your ability, which gives -8 leadership and removes their immune to psychology. Now, in terms of the enemy leadership in the local region, it actually goes from 9 to 5, so it's actually slightly downgraded, but then your attribute causes fear, which will give you more leadership reduction as long as the enemy unit doesn't have fear itself. Then it will be immune to the fear effects. But if it's got immune to psychology, you strip it from that. So there's loads of ways to just strip away tons of leadership from the enemy units before you even engage with them. Then you've got Unholy Power over here for Winds of Magic power capacity +10. Crowfather, which gives capacity for harpies, which who cares, speed +15%, which is already super fast, but that's really useful, and missile resistance +20% for the Lord's Army, very useful. Portents of Doom, -10 control local enemy province, which is pretty much useless because revolts are practically useless at anything other than reviving factions. And then Attribute Causes Terror, which again, another thing that adds on to causing routes. And Nightmarish Cabal. I think this is the trait here that got significantly nerfed. This is the one I think that used to provide Winds of Magic cost reduction across the board. So this one here, hero action cost -25% for Brave Shamans, and increases the hero action success chance +10% for Brave Shamans. So that's still good global bonus, but not as good as what the other one was. Then you've got Mantle of Crows over here, which sort of turns them into a Mortis engine. You go into melee and it just causes a constant Flock of Doom, which stacks with Flock of Doom, so you can actually cast them both at the same time and cause just ridiculous amounts of damage, especially useful against infantry, pretty much useless against single entity. And that's pretty much all of his unique skills there. Now, in terms of his quests, he's got the Icons of Vilification, which is a pretty good item. Hero Capacity +1 for Brave Shamans. Hero Recruit Rank +1 for Brave Shamans. Horde Building Construction cost -25%. And Horde Growth +5 for the Lord's Army. And then the passive ability here, Icon of Vilification, which gives a leadership aura buff for your units in a local area. So that's fairly good. Now, talking about the special effects of his faction, he reduces the Dread cost -50% for all hero capacity upgrades, which is definitely very valuable because heroes are really good within the Beastman faction. Campaign movement range +10% for all characters, so that's also very good because you want to be able to catch up to your enemies. And hero recruit rank +5 for Brave Shamans and Great Brave Shamans, so that's also very useful. But I'd say that as far as his starting position and his faction effects are concerned, Malagor is not really the premier beastman to choose. Even if you consider Malagor to be the best actual legendary lord, my recommendation is pick a better start position. Either be Kazrak the one. Kazrak's can be quite difficult, but he's got really good starting effects with extra ambush success chance. Or go with Torox the Brass Bull, and then just confederate the other Beastman Lords. So I'm not really fond of this as a start position, but I really like Malagor. I personally really enjoy playing Beastmen in these days, but word of warning is that they can be ridiculously easy once you've gotten past essentially the initial hump. At about 10 turns in, all the campaigns for Beastmen get quite easy. So in terms of difficulty to play on, I recommend cranking it up to the higher difficulties, or else you'll probably get bored because the Beastmen really benefit from fighting as many battles as possible, and the AI will simply not produce enough armies for you to fight on the lower difficulties. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Malagor. What do you think of my assessment? Whether you agree or disagree. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.